Hello everyone, I'm Aaron and welcome back to my YouTube. I've got a Florida native orchid that I'm really excited to work on a painting of today. So I actually got this back in January at the Tamiami show, and it had a little spike on it at the time, and it's mid-April now, and it's taken 4 full months for this flower spike to develop and for these to open. And what this is Tolumnia bahamensis. So if you've ever been to an orchid show or grown orchids, you might be familiar with Tolumnia. They're related to oncidiums, and the flowers are very similar to oncidium, but the little thin leaves are quite different, and they're much smaller. They don't have large pseudobulbs like most oncidium do. And so this is what you'll probably think of as a Tolumnia. This is a hybrid. So hybrid Tolumnias are bred for their larger flowers, lots of colors. They have all sorts of stripes and patterns. And what you immediately see when you look at this hybrid plant next to the bahamensis, which is a naturally occurring species, is a much larger flower size. The other thing that I noticed was the flower spike on the hybrid is much shorter, which I think is something that they select for, so you don't have this kind of ungainly tall plant. But with the bahamensis species, what I was really excited to pick this one up for is that, as you see in the name, this species is native to the Bahamas. And then also they've found several populations of this one in the east coast of Florida, which if you look at the map, you know, it's not very far across the water from the Bahamas. And some seeds and plants, who knows how long ago, without the help of humans, got blown across and landed on the east coast of Florida around the Palm Beach area is where most of these grow. So unlike most of the epiphytic orchids that we see in South Florida, which are in the cypress swamps and in the Everglades, this one grows in kind of a different habitat, like most Tolumnia, which are found in the Caribbean. It kind of grows among shrubby plants close to the ground. They're called twig epiphytes because they live on small branches, and then it sends out that long spike to reach the pollinators. So it's a really cool, kind of unique plant, unlike many of our other native orchids, something unusual, and I'm really excited to do a painting of it and try to capture those little intricate flowers. A lot of detail in there. I started with a quick and loose sketch to figure out my composition before moving on to my hot press watercolor block with the drawing. Because the flower spike is so long, I wanted to move the flowers closer to the leaves and break the spike into 2 pieces. That way I can fit everything on the page. I just want to get the individual placement of each flower in there first, and then as I go I can redraw the flowers with more detail. In the bottom corner of the composition, I decided to draw 3 of the flowers much larger up close so we can see all the detail. Having a good, accurate drawing is such an important part of any botanical illustration, so I really want to take my time, use my eraser a lot, and refine my drawing. Of course, paying very close attention to my reference. I'm looking closely at the anatomy of the flower, the angle that the petals and sepals come off, and the shape of that wide lip. Now that I'm happy with my drawing, I'm going to start painting with a bit of green gold from my palette. This is a nice base tone for the leaves, but since they turn partially red when they're stressed, I'm going to use a bit of cobalt violet mixed in. This combination creates a nice natural looking warm tone. For the flowers, I'm going to start by establishing the deep yellow base tones on the upper part of the lip. Most of the rest of the flower isn't super colorful, but there is some pink on the column, which is where the pollen is presented, and an interesting reddish-brown variegation on the lateral petals and sepals. After the first layer of base tones, I can erase a lot of my pencil lines and start adding darker layers of detail. I've decided to give the large white lips more contrast against the white of the paper. I'm going to use a wash of Payne's Gray to paint the negative space around them. For this, I want to load up the paint right along the edge of the flower and then use clean water to create an even wash with an undefined border. Now I just need to do the same process but paint the flowers at a smaller scale. This liner brush is the perfect tool for the little narrow flower stalks. I'm happy with how the big flowers are coming together, but I just need to pack in some more detail into the little flowers. It's so tricky to paint at this scale, and I need to use a really tiny brush. Once the painting is nearly complete, I try to slow down, take my time, and make sure I'm not overlooking any details. Ideally, I take a break and come back at least a day later to look at the painting with fresh eyes. This was such a fun one to paint and so different from a lot of the other orchids that I've painted. Let me know how you think it turned out in the comments, and thanks for watching.